So, our first speaker is Lisa Fellinger. And Lisa, I'm going to actually have you start to come up. Lisa is an author, professionally trained developmental editor, a book coach whose passion is helping writers become published authors. Her background is in mental health counseling, and in her words, she helps writers to get out of their own way to write their best story. She's the indie author of The Serendipity of Catastrophe, a woman's fiction novel about second chances in the wake of tragedy. Welcome, Lisa, and let me get this set for you. Come on over on this side. You're all set.
All right, hi everyone, welcome to Indie Author Day. Like Joy said, I'm Lisa Fellinger. I'm an indie author as well as a freelance developmental editor and a book coach. I work mainly with indie authors or writers who are still undecided about which path they want to pursue. So today I want to talk to you all about 5 steps to succeed as an indie author and make your author dreams come true. So as I mentioned, I'm an indie author myself. My debut women's fiction novel, The Serendipity of Catastrophe, was published this past March. It's about a woman whose husband dies in an accident the night before a month-long retirement trip to Europe. And as the 1-year anniversary of his death approaches, her therapist encourages her to go on the trip with her estranged daughter instead. Her daughter initially says no, but after being fired from her job as a talent agent in LA, she agrees, and they go on the trip together. So my main work is as a freelance developmental editor and a book coach. And in this role, I work with writers to help them write and strengthen their stories and navigate the changing landscape of publishing. There are more and more indie authors today than in years past, and this is so truly exciting to me. While I do believe there are pros and cons to both traditional and indie publishing, I do think that the control that indie publishing offers writers is really wonderful, and it's this control that led me to choosing to be an indie author myself. As a book coach with a background in mental health counseling, I work with my clients to help them get out of their own way to write and finish their stories. I found a lot of times writers come to me with self-limiting beliefs around their ability to be a writer or to be an author, and this often stems from something that someone once told them about their ability to be a writer or their likelihood to make it as an author. So to that I say, just because someone told you once you can't be a writer doesn't mean that they're right. If you put your mind to it, if you want to put in the work and the effort to make this work for you, you can do anything that you want, including being an author. And the indie publishing path gives you a lot of control over that. So before I dig into these steps, I do want to preface this by acknowledging this is a broad overview of what it takes to be a successful indie author. It definitely requires a lot of work and a lot of effort, but if you're willing to put in the time and energy to learn the business side of being an indie author, it can be very rewarding. Okay, so step 1 towards being a successful indie author is to find a writing community. Writing can be very isolating, and I know when I first started writing seriously, I didn't know any other writers. This made it challenging for me to know if I was on the right track, where to look for ways to improve my writing, and where to find answers to the main questions I had about writing and about publishing. Once I started finally reaching out and connecting with other writers, my writing improved dramatically, and I gained a lot of confidence as a writer. I now had other people to go to with questions, who could point me towards resources, and I had other people in my life who understood the writing life in a way that those other people in my life who were truly supportive, they just couldn't understand because they weren't a writer themselves. So there are many benefits to being a writer, or to having a writing community and having a supportive writer community of people to lean on. But some of these include support and understanding, having people who can point you towards those resources to help you improve your writing, and having other writers to answer questions for you. Those who are further along than you in the process can answer those questions, and I've found that most writers that I've interacted with are more than happy to do that. There are also a lot of places to start looking for a writing community with some ideas to get you started. Local events like this one are a great way to meet local authors. Establish associations for your genre. So if you write, say, mystery, you might look and see if there's established associations for mystery writers in particular. There are a wealth of Facebook groups for writers available, so many. You can do a search on Facebook for them. I found that they have different vibes to them, so definitely be willing to try some out, and if they don't click for you, move on. But I've gotten so much help and so many answers from Facebook groups for writers. Also, other social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok have writing communities that are very supportive as well. Again, I will say that finding a writing community can be trial and error. You kind of have to see where you fit in and which ones have the kind of vibe that you're looking for. So if you find a community and it doesn't click, feel free to keep looking, but do keep looking, because I think it's really important for writers to have a community to lean on. So step 2, write a great book. I know this seems obvious, but it really is the most important thing you can do to succeed as an indie author. Your book is your business's product, and it's what will either create a devoted reader base or cause readers to never buy a book from you again. Writing a book is a lengthy process, and I know it can be tempting to rush this process just to get your name on a published book. I completely understand that temptation, but I would caution you to slow down and really put the time and effort into creating the best book you can. Putting a book out that draws rave reviews will be worth the time it took to create that book, rather than rushing and being met with reviews that are lackluster. So some resources to help you include craft books. There are numerous books out there, and this is also somewhere where having a writing community can help you, because they can point you to the books that might be most useful either for your particular level of writing or your particular genre. Writing blogs, there are so many free writing blogs out there. Two of my favorites are Jane Friedman, and K.M. Weiland has a blog post. It's also a podcast. It's called Helping Writers Become Authors. She writes a blog and then puts it on her podcast as well, so either one. But both of these have phenomenal articles, and they're updated regularly, so great places to get started. Also, writing conferences and retreats. Again, there are numerous ones that you could look into, but those are a great way to not only network with other writers, but also get information about craft and the business side. So I have not personally attended 20 Books Vegas, but I know from a lot of other self-published authors that I know that this is a really great conference. They all really enjoy it. And then for the women writers out there, the Women in Publishing Summit is an all-virtual 4-day event. They hosted in March. This coming March is going to be my 3rd year attending. It really is a phenomenal event. There's networking opportunities, again, to help you meet other writers and network, but there's also a lot of information. It's packed with 4 days of different conferences and stuff like that. Also, working with critique partners, writing mentors, book coaches, and or professional editors are a way that you can help strengthen your writing and make your book the best that it possibly can be. Step 3, hire out. So the next step is to hire out. I used to work for a psychologist whose catchphrase was hire out, and this mentality really stuck with me throughout the years. He was an advocate of doing the things that you were skilled at and being honest with yourself and hiring out in the areas that you weren't as skilled in. As indie authors, we take on the role of not only the author, but also the publisher. It's not only our job to create a strong story, but also to create a quality book. And this is where it's important to be honest with ourselves about our own abilities and where we may need to find other professionals to help us. For example, when I decided to indie publish my book, I knew there was no way I could create my own cover. I'm not at all creative with visual arts, so I knew one of the areas I would need to invest my money in was a cover designer who truly understood my genre. Because if I tried to design the cover myself and it looked amateur, no matter how good the story inside of it might be, readers weren't going to be convinced to buy that book. Some areas you might need to consider for hiring out include a developmental editor. So this is the editor who looks at the overall story, gives you feedback on how to make it stronger, such as with your plot, your characters, your pacing. A line or copy editor. So these editors look at your story on more of a sentence and paragraph level, but the difference is while a copy editor is going to be looking for mostly grammatical and punctuation, a line editor is also going to help you kind of make sure that your words flow, you're getting your message across in the best way possible. A proofreader is going to be that last step, someone to get the last set of eyes on everything, make sure all the periods are where they're supposed to be, commas, etc. A cover designer, again, I know we all say not to judge a book by its cover, but people do. It's important your cover is not only aesthetically pleasing, but also on brand for your genre, so that your target readers know this book is for them, even before they look at your blurb. You might need a formatter, so depending on your comfort with technology, you may be able to do this yourself. I used a program called Vellum, which is a software that makes it pretty simple to format. But if you're not really comfortable with computers, you might want to invest in having a formatter do that for you. And then marketing consultant is someone else that you might want to consider hiring after you have published. So how do we assemble a team of quality professionals? It's so important to not just jump into working with the first person whose name you find or are referred to in any of those areas that I mentioned. You really want to make sure the people you hire to bring your book to life are the best fit for you and your particular book. For example, I'm a developmental editor, but I would never be the right fit for a mystery novel because that's not a genre I'm familiar enough to do a quality job. As an indie author, you are the CEO of your writing business, and it's your job to ensure you hire the right people to work on your book. So some places you can start, ask your community for referrals and recommendations. This is a great place to start, especially if they write in a similar genre to you. You can also check with professional organizations, as they will have databases to help you find professionals that work with your genre. Once you reach out to these individuals, ask for samples and/or references from previous clients, and please ask any and all questions that you might have. It's their job to answer those questions. It's your job to make sure that you're asking them and make sure that you feel comfortable with the answers. You have every right to ask those questions and make sure you're confident and comfortable with who you hire. Step 4 is launch and market. Marketing is an area I know many of us writers have a love-hate relationship with, but it's necessary if you want others to find and buy your books. Even if you were to go to a traditional publisher, these days a large amount of the marketing responsibility lies with the author, and at the end of the day, no matter how amazing your book may be, if no one knows it exists, no one will read it. Marketing can include social media, but it doesn't have to be only social media. The key to marketing is to look for opportunities for exposure, and keep in mind marketing is an ongoing experimental process, so try something and see if it works, and if it doesn't, try something else. This is an area where reaching out to your writing community can be helpful to see what works for others. Do keep in mind that what works for one person may or may not work for you. So even if something worked for someone but it's not working for you, that's okay. Keep an open mind and just keep trying to get your book in front of your target readers. And then the last step is to write the next book. The best way to maintain an indie author career is to keep publishing books. I've heard from many authors that they didn't truly begin to see significant sales or success until they had a decent backlist or books for readers to buy. So don't be discouraged if your first book isn't a bestseller. Keep writing, keep publishing, and as long as you're enjoying what you're doing and stay persistent, you'll find your readers. And that's it. So here's my contact information, my email, and my website. Feel free to reach out with any questions you might have and keep in touch.
Does anybody have any questions for Lisa? And if you raise your hand, we can even walk down. I'm going to ask while we're waiting. Lisa, you talked about social media.
Yes.
And I know from past years, people talked about social media, that you have to be on social media. And obviously, when you're writing, it's up to you. As she said, you're the CEO. How really important is it to be on social media? And if you're not on social media, what's a better way to get the word out? I'm going to come over here too.
I've heard so many mixed things about, do you necessarily have to be on social media? I think it absolutely helps because I think these days readers want that personal connection with authors. They want to hear from you directly, see a little behind the scenes and all of that. But I know some people truly don't love it. And if you don't truly love it, you're not going to put in the effort to make it worth your effort. So I think it's probably a really good idea, and if you're able to have a presence there, do that. But I don't think you necessarily need to be there. You can definitely get your name out in other ways. It's definitely about just looking for opportunities for exposure. So being a guest on podcasts, guest blogging, doing author interviews on other book blogs are great ideas. Getting into some Facebook groups, I know that's still kind of social media, but not having your own profile, but getting into Facebook groups with other readers and, you know, connecting with them there. It's really about finding what works for you.
Hi, my name is Robert Graves. My question is kind of a follow-up to what you were just talking about. How do you build your platform? Everyone I've talked to in the industry says you have to have a platform, you have to have 5,000 followers on Facebook. How do you get there?
So, are you nonfiction or fiction?
I wrote a memoir.
I'm sorry?
Nonfiction memoir.
Oh, okay. So it's a little bit different for nonfiction and fiction. Nonfiction, I think it's much more important to have that platform and the really high numbers. For fiction, I don't know that you need as many followers as just engaged readers who are really interested in what you're saying. It takes time to build that platform. I'm definitely not a social media expert by any means, but I will say, like, for my own platform, it takes time. It takes posting regularly, posting things that are very genuine and honest about who you are as a person and as a writer. And you also have to engage. It's not as simple as just writing something and posting it up on social media. You have to also go on there and follow up to the comments that are made. You have to reach out to other people and connect with them. So you just really do have to be patient with it and give it time. But being consistent is probably the most important thing that you can do. Just make sure that if you're posting 2 times a week, you're doing that consistently as much as you possibly can.
Hello, my name is MJ Felder. I'm a published author. I write fantasy with hints of spirituality, but my question was, you mentioned a formatting resource that you use.
Yes.
Can you give us that again?
Yeah, it's called Vellum. It's Vellum. This one is only, I believe, for Mac computers. I think there's another one called Atticus. It's Atticus, that I think is for PC as well. And it's so simple to use. I formatted my novel in probably 30 minutes or less. Like, it's a little crazy. I think it's like 250, maybe 300. But if you're going to publish multiple novels, it's worth it in the long run, because the formatter could have run you that much or more just for one.
Hi. Oh, that's loud. You mentioned some professional organizations.
Yeah.
Could you give some recommendations for the hiring out?
Oh, for the hiring out, yes. So for editors in particular, you could look at the Freelance Editors Association. And then there's one called ACES. I don't remember off the top of my head the full name for that. It's ACES. But both of those have databases of editors that you can look for.
Hi, Lisa. My question is, how did you publish? Did you self-publish through a company?
No. So I did everything on my own. I hired my own cover designer, I hired my own editors, and then I went through both Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark to get my novel distributed.
Do you like the feedback that you're getting with the Amazon KPD app?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you know, we all wish Amazon didn't have the hold on us that it does, but at the end of the day, that's where most readers buy their books. I am not in KU, so I am not on the Amazon exclusive for my ebook, but I do sell my books through Amazon there. And my recommendation really is to distribute through both Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark. You can distribute to Amazon through Ingram Spark. My writing group and I did an anthology last year, and we ran into some issues doing that. Amazon did not play super nice with us because of that. So as much as it's difficult to manage the 2 platforms, I would highly recommend doing that.
I want to add, we are sending you all a directory, so all of you hopefully gave us your contact information. Lisa will get those web addresses that you've given out, and we'll include that in there under your section. Got another question?
Thanks, I'm Daniel J. Burkett. J stands for genius. I may be the dumbest guy in the room because I'm not published, I just, click and clack on the computer. I came to learn a lot, and I was stunned. In fact, when I was coming up, walking in here, the guy was walking with, I said, are there going to be 3 people here, or 13, or 300? And jokingly, I did say 300, and I'm impressed that there's 300 stinking people here. Good for you guys. So, again, David J. Workett, dumbest guy in the room, but a lot of people raise their hand when they were published. They say they were published, which means they wrote a book, and it's out there somewhere. But and I know success is not the word I'm looking for, but do you think, I'll put it on the spot, do you think, how many people in this room have sold over 10 units, or 100 units, or 1,000 units?
Are you asking me that?
Yes, and take a guess, and you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings, because you're not going to point anybody out. But if I don't, again, if I would have said, has anybody sold over 10 books, maybe the whole room would scoff at me, or maybe if I said, 1,000 books, people would scoff at me too. I have no idea. Maybe published books have sold 0, which is okay too, because you're way ahead of the game than I am. I have one more good piece of news. I'm going to shut up and listen.
So here's the thing though, it really is success for each of us is going to be defined differently. Success to one person might look like selling just 10 books, and success to another person might be, I want to sell 10,000 books. It really is about the effort that you put in, and unfortunately these days, even if you go through a traditional publisher, you, the author, need to continue to put in the effort to market. If you're not marketing, if you're not writing the next book and publishing another one, you're going to publish your book, and it's going to sell a handful of copies when you launch it, and then not many after that. That is the reality of being an indie publisher or an indie author, is that you are the publisher. You take on the marketing responsibility, you take on producing that quality book. There are definitely things you can do to up your chances, putting the money and the effort in up front to make sure that your book looks like a traditionally published book. It's got a cover that is well done, it's got a cover that is on brand, it's got as few punctuation and typos as possible. There's always going to be those ones that get through, but as few as possible. That is going to set you up as best you can for success, and then making sure that you're continuing to look for those opportunities for exposure will up your chances of selling more books.
Hello. So I'm in a weird spot. I have a publisher. It's a small publisher, and they're editing it right now. But like you said, the marketing is all on you. So even if you're doing indie or a smaller publisher, you're in the same boat, I feel like.
Yeah.
So what I'm coming across, I actually have 2 questions. One is your website's really nice, and did you get Bowker has a service, and other places seem to have author pages. People seem to really want to make money off of us. So I was curious how you made your website. Did you use a service, and then my second question is, so doing Amazon KDP is like a blessing and a curse because they use their own ISBN numbers. I don't know if anybody, but that little barcode thing on the number and the barcode, and then you're sort of beholden to Amazon. So I'm gonna, I think, go through Bowker and get my own real ISBN. And so those are my 2 that, if you did that part, because my publisher was like, why do you go get your own ISBN?
Yes.
And so those are my 2, your website's awesome and an ISBN thing.
So for the ISBN, Amazon does offer a free ISBN, but you're right that you are beholden to Amazon with that if they own that ISBN. you do want to go to Bowker and buy your own ISBN, and then you can use the same ISBN. So I have the same ISBN number for my Ingram Spark as well as for my Amazon KDP. But yes, if you go through Amazon and get the free one, like that's, now it's just for Amazon. And I heard there's some issues in doing that, if you want to go wide with doing Ingram Spark as well. For my website, I did it on my own. I used Squarespace, and I designed it on my own. I used to use WordPress, and it was such a learning curve, and I made it work because I was paying for it, but finally I made the jump this past year to go over to Squarespace, and it is so much more user-friendly and intuitive to learn, so I would highly recommend using Squarespace for my website.
We're going to take 2 more questions.
Do you only sell online, or have you convinced some bookstores to carry your book as well?
I have not yet worked on getting into bookstores. I just haven't had the time, honestly, to do that. But I know many indie authors who successfully have gotten into bookstores. And I actually met an indie author not too long ago who said that her best success is actually linking up with local gift shops and working on consignment. So she will give them a lot of books, and then they will sell them on consignment. And she said she actually sells much more there and has had more success doing that than actual bookstores. So that's something that's on my list of things to look into doing as well. So,
Is there one?
Hi, I'm Sally Cunningham, a published nonfiction garden author, but I switched to fiction. And in seeking an agent traditionally, my question is about genre. I joined Women's Fiction Writer Association, and I would classify my work as feminist women's fiction. But what do you think about that genre? Because you mentioned it in your own identity,
yeah.
And it seems controversial. Some say it shouldn't be a genre.
Yeah,
what do you think?
You're in WFWA?
Yes.
I am also.
Good, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's the thing. I actually recently just published a blog post about this. I love women's fiction as a genre. The name probably needs to be changed, and I know there's some movement within the publishing industry to look into getting a different name for that, just because it is limiting, and especially in today's world, we don't love, classifying things as just for women, just for men. Like I said, I love the genre. I love the people that I've met in that community. So I never want to speak badly about it, but it probably does need a new name.
Would you tell the people who don't know what the genre is supposed to be?
Yeah. So women's fiction is defined by the Women's Fiction Association as fiction that focuses on the protagonist's emotional journey. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be a female protagonist. It has to be, the focus is on the main character's emotional journey throughout the story.
Whoa. Lisa, that was great. And I think, you're hearing a lot of advice. You need to sort it out. One thing that I could say about an ISBN number is you give people that number anywhere in the world and they should be able to look up your book, okay? The other thing, Lisa had mentioned getting, meeting or working with people who are also writing. Please use your libraries for that. For example, if you want to start a writer's group, go to your nearest library, Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. You could even come here for us. We will let you use a room. It is free. You can promote writers, new writers, fiction writers, whatever. We're going to start a group. We're going to meet every week or every month. That happens here. I think there's one today. There's one later today through Just Buffalo Literary Center that meets on Saturdays. So if you don't have a place to go or you're not sure where to start, again, always think about the library. Somebody's got their hand up. Shout it loud and clear, because I don't know if I'll be able to hear.
Okay. This library does have a writers group. It meets the second and fourth Saturday of every month in the gallery room on the second floor between 2 and 4:45. There are a number of members, and all of them very good authors, but everybody is welcome. We bring about 1,000 words and present to the group. So please consider that. and thanks.
Thank you. Tell us again when that meets?
It meets the second and fourth Saturdays of every month.
Second and fourth, and today is
Today is the first.
the first.
So it'll meet next Saturday.
So there's another group meeting, and I know there's a group meeting here today,
Okay.
later on, but that is phenomenal, and again, feel free to start your own. Talk to people today.